Yeah, I'm gonna start some beef with this one.
What a terrible joke!
This device has a number of different names, but the one that I've been seeing a lot of lately is courting candle. If you believe the people repeating that term, courting candles were used centuries ago to set limits for how long a suitor could spend with whomever he was trying to woo. This was purportedly done by adjusting the height of the candle, and when it burned down to the rings, the date was over.
Not true, not true.
Now, candles have absolutely been used to measure time, and the phrase courting by length of candle was allegedly in common parlance as late as the 1890s. The thing is, well, that may have been a euphemism. And even if it wasn't, it definitely didn't refer to this object. It didn't refer to this either. This is actually a wax jack, and it was used for sealing wax. Think of it like a needlessly complicated taper stick that went out of style in the 19th century. What makes all of this so confusing is that there is a link between the wax jack, the myth of the courting candle, and this blasted thing. But almost nobody gets it right.
They've dragged in all this irrelevant mush.
Let's start with what this actually is. In simplest terms, it's a chamber stick, a candle holder that you can carry around with you. See, candles used to be surprisingly expensive, so people wanted to get as much use out of them as they could. That desire led to the invention of things like ejectors, which served the dual purpose of retrieving unused wax and making sure that there wasn't much of it. This spiral shape serves exactly the same purpose. But this style of chamber stick was used in fewer places, and its namesake is what started all of this trouble. By the way, the word fewer is different than the word less.
Oh no, come on, please.
You're probably wearing fewer silver rings than I am, so you're likely wearing less silver.
Oh no, come on.
In general, if you can count it, use fewer, and if you can't, use less. There's less to worry about when we make fewer mistakes. Anyway, the convoluted link that I mentioned begins with this. In French, it's called a rat de cave, and it's basically a poor man's candle made of string dipped in pitch. It was typically carried as a coil, which is why the literal definition of rat de cave is coiled up candle. When that was translated into English, folks mistakenly assumed that coiled referred to the shape of the candle holder. Nowadays, there's this widespread misconception that the cellar rat got its name because it was used in French wine cellars. The courting candle concept only showed up in the 1960s, and it arose from the equally wrong idea that ejectors were used for timing. Since cellar rats allowed for a lot of precision, yet another inaccurate assumption was made, and when people look back at how cellar rats came to be, they found the coiled up candle definition, and that misled them to wax jacks.
My brain hurts.
Put bluntly, the link is composed entirely of mistakes joining barely related objects. This was the original rat de cave. This is just a cheap chamber stick, wax jacks were for sealing wax, and courting candles never existed. And while we're debunking stuff, I should mention that almost all antique cellar rats are actually modern day creations. If there's one silver lining to all of this though, it's that the history of these myths is a roller coaster in its own right. And if it had fewer twists, it would be less of a ride.